Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. Today I need to give you a PSA. In the Edge of Fate, armor is changing a crazy amount and it's going to change how we play Destiny 2. One of the biggest changes that I'm most anticipating, and honestly a little worried about, is the one happening to ability regeneration because of these new armor systems. According to Bungie's own words, it's no stretch of the mind that we will be able to get entire supers from using a single ability. If we look at this clip, from one consecration melee, we get almost half of our entire super. And that's already pretty crazy by itself, but if we take a screenshot from the Edge of Fate, we can see this buff. When we have 100 of one of the new stats, as you're reading it, it says plus 190% from all sources. And that's not base regeneration, that is external sources like what we just saw in that clip. And I need to emphasize that this is not 190%, it is plus 190%. That means when Edge of Fate launches, this clip that gets us near 50% super in one ability is going to be that plus 190% of it, which can essentially just be called triple the energy regeneration. Now this fact on its own is already just insanity, but the main thing to know is that to be able to do this, you need to have specific stats in your armor. And if you want to be able to do this on day one of Edge of Fate without needing to grind out any new armor as soon as the DLC drops, then you're going to want to watch this video so that we can prepare ourselves do what you just saw in that clip. So first things first, since we are talking about armor and armor stats, a misconception that I definitely don't want people to have is that old armor is useless. It is true that our old stats are going away, but that doesn't mean our old armor is going away. All the stuff that we have now is being translated to the new system. The mobility stat is becoming weapons, resilience is becoming health, recovery is becoming class, discipline is becoming grenade, strength is becoming melee, and intellect is becoming super. That means this piece of armor that you're seeing here, I will have 38 stat in weapons and 24 in super come the Edge of Fate. That means right now you can have armor or get armor for stats that technically don't exist. And this idea of getting armor now that we can use in the DLC is what I really want to drive home today. You may or may not have heard about the new Archetype system coming. What this system will do is when you get an armor drop, it will guarantee two main stats. This isn't super important to us right now, but what is important is that there are only 6 archetypes, and thus not every combination of two stats will exist when the DLC launches. One example of that is the combination of intellect plus mobility. This armor that you're seeing right now will not be easily attainable come Edge of Fate. So if you're looking to min-max, then I would recommend trying to get some illegal rolls of armor now before you simply can't. And on screen are all of the illegal combinations. Shout out Mossy Max, so pause here if you're curious about anything. Now, beside the illegal roll thing, I want to talk about how we can prepare for the Edge of Fate launch. Like I said earlier, you can get armor now that you will use in the DLC. An example of what we can do with this is by using our current armor. Looking at my stats, we can get way over 100 in one stat and then about 100 in another. In this case, it's mobility and intellect for max boss damage for the new raid. And like I've been saying, this armor is totally usable in the DLC. So if we wanted to recreate that clip that I showed you in the beginning, what you're gonna want is at least 100 intellect. 200 if you want that super to deal max damage. Also, this is where I should mention that class items in the Edge of Fate will have stats. So if you are just short of the total 200, just know that your stats will be going up by about 20 to 30, assuming you get a good roll. I should also mention that your armor in Edge of Fate will also come with more stats, so all the armor that we're getting right now is good and perfect by most means, but ultimately in-game players will get better stuff. Now, back to the example, if we can get 200 intellect, which will become super in Edge of Fate, then this clip that already generates an insane amount of super will give us our entire super. Those will definitely be the first thing I test when I get my hands on the DLC. But now that you know what's coming and why we're going to want to have armor now for the DLC rather than just grinding new stuff when it launches, what are the best methods of getting armor right now? The by far easiest is to get armor from seasonal vendors. Failsafe is the best, as once you've picked up the heirloom from her in the helm, assuming you've ownership of this episode, any activities you do across the entire game will give you Echo Engrams. I'll also talk about a farm for this later in the video. You can then take these and decrypt them into high stat armor within the helm. You do need to spend 2 engrams per decrypt, because if you don't focus and you just buy the armor, you can get dupes and they have pretty terrible stat. This purchase strategy comes out to 49 pieces of good armor, assuming you have a full stack of engrams, which if you play a lot, you may already have this amount. Just remember that while you're decrypting armor, and especially just as you're playing from now to the launch of the DLC, equip the proper stat mod on your ghosts, because let's be honest, right now you probably have resilience equipped. But you likely already have all the resilience armor you're gonna need, and that's becoming health, so do we even want health in the DLC? Regardless, just put on mobility or intellect or whatever new stat you're looking for. But using the above method of using failsafe, I was able to get armor with massive investment into mobility and intellect. A stat distribution I have never focused for previously. And because I now have this armor set, I can go into the Edge of Fate DLC with this armor equipped, ready to generate my entire super from one melee, while also getting the weapon buff, which is a pretty big plus 10% damage buff against bosses. Now, that is just one method of getting armor, and can be dried up pretty quick if you're getting armor for all three classes or different stat distributions. The next best method has to do with dungeons, and also brings us to the topic of Artifice Armor. According to those that got to play early, Artifice Armor will be converted into the new tier system, being around tier 3 when the DLC launches. The specifics don't really matter. What it means is that there's seemingly nothing. The stats will convert like normal. According to this Datto picture, Artifice Armor is still distinct. Of course, these were preview builds, so stuff can change. But now with that in mind, the next best armor farm method is doing the easiest encounter of the weekly featured dungeon. By far, if you're looking for the best stats on any armor with the easiest way to do it, the final encounter from the Pit of Heresy dungeon is the way to go. As of recording, this is next week, so please, please, please make sure you don't miss out. But even then, like right now with Spire the Watcher or whatever comes next, every dungeon has an encounter that isn't too bad. Like I was just recently doing Spire the Watcher with Llama and G minors for some armor, but doing this gave me armor around the 63 stat, although it wasn't too spiky. Granted, while you're running through the dungeon encounter, you can get failsafe engrams at the end of it, so you're kind of knocking out two birds with one stone. Honestly, if the dungeon isn't Pit of Heresy, the stats can be quite mid. So if you think you're going to struggle with farming a dungeon, I would definitely just recommend farming failsafe engrams, which the best method for that is also in a dungeon, that being the easy cheesy Shattered Throne final boss. Farming this boss takes literally 20 seconds, and for every 3 runs you do, you should get about 2 engrams. This does put all our eggs into the seasonal vendor, but it's just really easy to do. And if you're curious what a run through of this does look like, I'll play that out. Pay attention on the right side of the screen. That's where we actually get our engram. And having showcased that, I really don't have a whole lot more to say. Again, armor coming to launch of the DLC is going to be super important. Don't neglect this time to prepare yourself for the day 1 raid or just even the legendary campaign. And of course, with that, thank you so much for getting started into the video. Your viewership means an absolute ton. If you want to support me and support the channel, a like, a comment, a subscription goes a very long way. If you want to support me and support the channel, but you can't think of a comment down below Edge of Fate armor. And with that, as usual, I hope you are having a great day, and I hope to see you around.